Yeah, welcome back to the Crave Show. How's everybody doing? JRuss, how's it going, man?
Good, man. How are you? Just
Very good. Yeah, we're here. We got a special guest with us this week. I'm very excited. We've got George. Oh
Hey
shoot, I just
guys.
blanked. What's your last name, George? Shoot.
Sorry?
What is your last name?
Reuter, but as an American, you can say Rauda, whatever. I mean, just mumble something. It's
George Hoyta.
Reuter, yeah.
All right. Yes. No, we've been JRuss has been talking about trying to have you on the show for quite a while. So I'm really excited. I'm very glad that you finally were able to join us. That we got you with us this evening. It's awesome, man.
Yeah,
How are you
well,
doing?
after you took Frenchies, I thought I have to represent my side of Europe too.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I think JRuss is already telling himself, what did I do?
no,
But
no. This is going to be great. Uh, so, uh, George, you are the only thing I'm going to say. Maybe you can give bio information, but you're the owner of Firebird,
I,
container manufacturer.
yes,
Um,
I am.
so, tell us about yourself. Like, what do you want people to know as your bio?
Um, Well, I don't know if they want to know or if they need to know. I didn't always do this job. I was in law enforcement for a long time. I was a Fed. Then I was the advisor, security advisor to the European president for a few years. That was before my skydiving career started, and my life was awesome, and I was happy, and I made a lot of money. And then I started skydiving, of course, and I ended up taking over a company that builds parachutes and parachute containers. And but it brought a lot of good stuff. I met JRuss and Steph like also now 15 or 17 years ago. I don't know, a long time ago. And he's now, I said it earlier, I consider him and Steph as my family. And yeah, that is basically it. I'm not a nice guy, so don't even think I'm a nice guy.
Where are you from, George?
I'm originally from the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg, which is not part of Germany, nor Sweden, nor Belgium. It is a tiny country, 30 by 50 miles in the middle of Europe. Some say it's the richest country in the world, which again doesn't make me rich, especially after I started in skydiving. It's a very good way to lose money. And then I started. Like I said, I worked for German special units, and I had a bunch of overtime. I started my AFF, and now I sit here with you. I mean, there's of course a lot of stuff that happened in between, but that's
Well,
a short version.
So, George, you're a tunnel instructor. You worked at the tunnel in Eloy for a few years um, under the supervision and sort of teaching of Jason Peters. Um, you, what do you have? 500 skydives, 1,000 skydives. Um,
I have around 1,000 skydive, just below. I think I'm 980 something. I never really
cool,
counted, but yeah.
cool. And
So
okay, so the questions that I had in my mind. So, how did it come to be that you acquired Firebird?
well, okay. So basically, while I was in the units, and I was on my way to switch to go to Brussels to become a diplomat or whatever you want to call it, to be the security advisor to back then the general Secretary General of the European Union, Javier Solana. I had like 3 or 4 months overtime to build up, and Firebird used to do the AFF for all this or most of the German special forces or special units. So they sent me there because it didn't cost me anything. And when I arrived there, nobody really was taking care of me. Um, and at that moment I should have turned around and start scuba diving, which was the other option. But then I fell in love with the guys. I within the first jumps, I destroyed a whole student harness because I really sucked at landing. Again, it was 2007 back then. There was no flight, there was no canopy flight stuff yet. So basically, the Germans had a different philosophy. Skydiving is dangerous. I did my AFF. I think I did 2 jumps on a 230 and then on a 210 and then 190 basically. But I was 220 pounds. I was still an active duty guy, so I was definitely fitter than now. So I was heavier than now. And now, of course, I would tell you, you shouldn't do AFF with a 230 or a 210 or even a 190. So I basically destroyed a rig. We became friends. The weather sucked in Europe. And they basically told me to go jump to Eloy. Fun fact is that Larry Hill used to be stationed in Bitburg with the Air Force in Germany. His wife is from Belgium. She used to jump in Spa. Firebird is just in that area, and the guys knew Larry, so they sent me to Eloy. And well, I was still working then in Brussels, made way too much money when you start a new hobby because you spend it all. And we were 3 guys in the commands, so I worked basically 10 days out of the month, and 20 days a month I spent nearly in Eloy all the time because we flew to the US to see to go to the White House, State Department, or United Nations. So the married guys, they didn't want to do it. They'd rather stay in Brussels with their families. So as a single guy, I was flying for free, business class, first class to the US, paid by the European taxpayer. I mean, it was my mission to go there, so it didn't really, they had to pay it anyway. But then I stayed there. So once the president left back for Europe, the new team took over. I stayed in Europe. I stayed in New York, flew to Eloy, and spent my money there. And then I met my former spouse, a very good friend of mine, still a very good friend of JRuss and Steph. The reason we met, Kim Winslow, which at that time, she was a machine, and fell in love. And basically, she moved to Europe to manage Firebird, the drop zone. And everybody who knows Kim knows that all she cares about is jumping. And with the European weather, we decided after a year or year and a half to move to the US. And yeah. And at some point, I became a proud citizen. Mainly to become a police officer again. And I had a job at the Eloy Police. And around the same time, and it's a funny story because I still have the pictures because JRuss was at the house. I had my neck surgery. I don't know if you remember that, JRuss. And for a few days, Jeffro stayed at our house because he just broke his wrist base jumping. And he rented out his house, so he had nowhere to sleep. He and JRuss and Stephanie, they were jumping all day long. Jeffrey and I, we sit on the couch drinking and having painkillers. And I got a phone call from Germany, and basically Burns, the former owner of Firebird, said, "Hey, I'm quitting. I bought the airport, so I'm just going to run the drop zone. I'm done with Firebird. I can't really deal with customers anymore." And at that time, under the influence of mind-changing medication, it seemed a good idea to take over Firebird, But yeah, I mean, of course, I have to say, and it's now it's funny. Of course, back then it wasn't funny. It was just after my divorce and my ex-wife being a professional skydiver. I thought it would impress her, and yeah, well, that. But again, we are very good friends. I love Kim to death. She gave me 3 beautiful dogs, and she made an awesome career. She's now a captain with NetJet, so I couldn't be more proud of her. And she She taught me a lot, and yeah, so that's how now I sit here.
So wait, okay, so hold on. Firebird at that, because you said Firebird a couple times, but then you mentioned a drop zone. What was the drop zone that was connected with Firebird? Were they actually connected, or what? How'd that work?
Yeah, so the Firebird factory has a drop zone. They were on the weekends, during the week they used to build parachutes, and on the weekend they did tandems. And
this was in Luxembourg?
In Germany. No, in Germany. Well,
Bitburg.
Bitburg is like 5 minutes away from the Luxembourg border, and Luxembourg being so small, it was basically like 35 minutes away from home.
Okay. So this was a drop zone in Germany.
Yes,
Bitburg,
that still exists. Yeah.
And the drop zone is, so what's the drop zone called? What's the name of it?
Firebird skydiving. So, well, they started it. I didn't want to take them the name away.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's an old Air Force base. Fun fact about that: after World War II, the Luxembourgish army, even though small but very mighty, we actually we were stationed in Bitburg. So basically, the U.S. Army had Berlin and half of Germany. Luxembourg had Bitburg. For like 3 years, we ran out of soldiers, but it's a fun fact still. Yeah, and very good beer, Bitburger beer.
So they were also making containers for the German military?
For the German police, yeah. Before they did, well, it's funny, and that is, the funny thing is that in skydiving, a lot of jumpers don't know anything about the industry of building parachutes, and it's actually very small. I mean, most people started with the same. I mean, most everything goes back to Bill Booth. I mean, like even the Germans. So the Germans used to be the former owner of Firebird, Bernd Pohl. He used to be part owner of Paratech, a German company. Then he and his girlfriend, I mean, they got into, like couples splits, and they Bernd created Performance Variable, the Omega, which was a one-on-one copy of a Vector back then. And that is because one of the big influences for Firebird was Bill Booth, because when they stayed in the land, apparently they stayed on his couch, and Bill Booth back then, 30 years ago, said, just copy a Vector or a Wonderhawk, that's the best you can do. And then they recruited T.K. Donnelly, which is a very known name in the industry, chair of the PIA. He used to run UPT, or Relative Workshop, before it was called UUPT. So it's all small. I mean, it's like a lot of other manufacturers started with Bill Booth, nearly everyone. I mean, like, well, not everyone, because some started with Ted Strong and some with John Sherman, but I know that Kelly Farrington started, as far as I know, with UPT. Sandy Reed, maybe not under UPT, but under one of Bill Booth's companies back then. So it was a very small.
George, hang on. So not Kelly Farrington. Did you say Kelly?
Kelly Farrington, yeah, the owner of Infinity, Velocity Sports Equipment.
And then Sandy Reed was doing rigging innovation. Yeah. Okay. So a lot of our listeners are going to be, less than 1,000 jumps, and so they don't even understand those names. So just to clear that up.
Rigging innovations, that's Curve. That's what I have.
Yeah, the Voodoo, then the Curve, and they got bought up by Sunpath. Used to be in Eloy.
So when you took over Firebird, did you know anything about making containers and harnesses and all that stuff?
Well, in German, there's a word for it. It says "jein." It's actually a mix between yes and no.
Jein.
So it's
That's a good word.
But I did, of course. So before I took over in 2017, from 2008 on, my first container was an Omega, because that's the Evo that people know now, and that JRuss and Stephanie Jams and Arizona Airspeed used it for 4 years. Jason Peters, Andy Melchiori, Jeff Provenzano, Miles Dasher. I mean, all those cool names. It was an Omega, which was a copy of Vector. Literally, it's literally a one-on-one copy. Firebird had a problem with one of those rigs in France. that was before my time. It was like 2005, and then they redesigned everything in order to be different or to avoid future problems. At that time, when I went to Eloy, some people like Steve Curtis, Jason Peters, some of those people, even Craig Girard, they met me and they saw my gear, and they, even though they knew a little bit about it, a lot of people told me, why don't you change this? You should change this. Basically, they gave me ideas that I brought back to the Germans, and the Germans were like, okay, let's see if we can make our rig a little bit more modern, more up to date. Then they came out with the Omega V2, but I told them, of course, hey, we should change that name because Omega doesn't have the best name anymore in Germany, in France, because of that incident. That was not really handled well because it was at the beginning of internet. The Frenchies didn't speak German, the German didn't speak French, and so basically, Firebird back then, or Performance Variable, didn't have the best reputation because of a lot of stuff. It was not necessarily the gear, because it was literally a copy of the most jumped gear. It was just how they handled it and how the Frenchies handled it with the Germans on both sides. It wasn't good. So I told him, hey, we should get rid of the Omega V2. I mean, any Omega related thing. And I came up with the name Evolution. And then I said, well, that's too long for like a logo. And I came out with the Evo. So the Evo, the name, and the ideas were mainly, or to rebrand it was mine. At that time, I was a new jumper, and I jumped out of France. Basically, I jumped in Germany, but I also jumped out of France, where I met still today, a good friend of mine. JRuss knows him, Jim Garris, who became a free fly world champion multiple times. I think JRuss, you know Jim, no? Yeah.
Yeah,
Back then,
sorry, my AC's on. I'm muting my mic, but yeah.
Yeah, and another guy who I hung out with is Julien Degen, Juju. He's back then he was in the French 4-way team, also multiple world champion, and basically they all told us, hey, why don't you do this? So basically we took ideas from Parachute de France, we took idea from the Micron, we took idea basically from everyone out there, and try to make the rig like most people in Eloy would like to see it. Then the Germans, of course, they came with all the rounded stiffener. So we really focused on having the smallest chance of any line entanglement on the market, I would say.
So, George, just to back up a second, because you said there was an issue, but didn't really flesh that out between like France and Germany, and there was an incident. Was it a line that snagged on the container?
Yeah, it was like a line snagging on the center flap, and not the center flap not being really closed at the ends. It could go below, underneath it, and basically create like a barb. I mean, line snags or line snag hazards is the main focus for us as manufacturers, at least in my opinion. With the history of Firebird, we always build everything to reduce to a minimum any snag hazard. It's not always possible. It really depends on how the position of the jumper is. So you can only develop your container to the point where the next guy comes out with an even dumber idea to mess it up. It's unfortunately it is. We are chasing the dumbest person.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, we had a guy. He thought it would be a good idea to check how an opening would be head down, and he did it. An Italian dude, and then he calls us and said, "Hey, my metal rings. So basically, my rings they are not round anymore." And we're like, "What?" And he said, "Well, and this." And basically he explained he just had a bad opening. Luckily, I called my friend in Italy from a magazine, 90%, and he of course got the video, and then we realized he pulled head down, and then he admitted, "Oh yeah, I just want to see what happens."
So he actually deformed the 3 rings?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
And and
how did he not deform his spine and his neck and everything?
well, I don't know. He was a heavy guy.
Oh my gosh, that sounds horrible.
Yeah, and I know. I mean, I broke my neck with an opening of an old canopy that is known for having bad opening, and I have to disclose, I also had a camera on the helmets, like a big Canon 5D, because I had the money to do it. I wasn't good at it. I had like 500 jumps, or 400 jumps, but I had the money to build a big camera. I have to say, back then all the cameras were big. I mean, we all, I don't know if, I mean, huge. A PC 100 was big.
Okay, hold on. I'm sure JRuss has questions he's got lined up, but I got a couple of things that I want to go over real quick. First, okay, just pretend like I know nothing about Firebird, and you give me, I mean, try to keep it brief, but what is the difference? How are Firebird containers, how is the Evo different from, say, a Micron, or I don't know, pick something else, whatever. Like, what, in your mind, how are they different? Because earlier you were saying, at one point, the guy at the very beginning before you was just copying, what'd you say? He was copying the vector?
Yes, I mean, that's where most manufacturers base their design on a vector. I mean, that's on a Wonderhawk back then. I mean, on what came afterwards.
So what are the differences now? What have you guys tried to incorporate that makes them different?
Well, I mean, in all those years, and I was about to say, with the Frenchies, they gave us all those ideas from different manufacturers. That is basically the end product. I think JRuss would be better to because he jumped everything, and he jumps a Firebird, and as far as I know, he likes it. The only thing I can say is that we are not better than anyone. I hate when people say we are the best and we are the biggest and we make world champions. Nobody makes world champions except the jumpers. They could jump. I mean, they could jump without any rig and they would still do the points. I mean, they wouldn't survive the jump, of course, but they could. So, I think that is something, and JRuss might be agreeing with that I always Firebird tries to be different with me because I don't want to start telling people we are better, or I don't want to do those sales pitch. I mean, what I hear is that our rig is extremely comfortable. It is not better than a Vector. It's not better than a Mirage. It's not better than a Racer. It's different because everybody has different standards of what they call the best.
Okay, let me go for a second. So,
well, I got to say, I really like that. I like hearing you say that.
Yeah. So I think that at a certain level of container manufacture, and there are several that are at the top end, Firebird included, Vector, Mirage, Javelin. I think that the changes that were made to the Aerodyne container maybe 8 years ago made it one of the top rigs on the market. And then I think that there is a difference between some of the rigs that I think or the containers that I think are a little more economical, is maybe the way to say it. So at the top echelon of these containers, I think Firebird, is definitely up there. I've not been sponsored by Javelin. I did have a sponsorship for Mirage. I was sponsored by Vector and now by Firebird. And for sure, the Firebird for me has been the most comfortable by far. The changes that I think are significant. So I wanted to back up and just talk about line snag, because George is saying this is a big focus for Firebird, and I don't even think that a lot of people realize that this is an issue for most manufacturers to think about how to reduce the potential that one of the lines of your main canopy snags on your container, because each manufacturer has gone through that situation where a line did snag on the container and the person died because they then had a main reserve entanglement. I think that Javelin was in 1995 when the grommets were not stamped down around the outside edge. They were still kind of exposed and lines could get underneath, and a line, I think it was a French guy, a line got underneath his main flap grommet and he had a main reserve entanglement and he went in. I had that situation on a Vector. I'm not trying to say anything bad about Vector. It's a great container. It's an issue that can come up. And George has treated his sponsored athletes of, Steph and I are included in that list, as test jumpers. And that's kind of the role of sponsored athletes. I mean, we're the face kind of the company, but also, I'm making more jumps in a year than a lot of jumpers will make in their lifetime. And so the issues that are going to come up with the rig come up with us typically before they come up with a regular customer. And so using that information, George has worked pretty hard. He's made some changes while we've been part of the team to try to reduce that potential. And one of them, I don't want to talk about other containers too much because I don't want it to come off like this is a session to trash other people's gear. But in the Firebird specifically, when you think about the last flap that closes that covers your pin, and you go up to the top of that, the part that's most close to your reserve, on some containers there's a cut in right there, and so basically instead of it being consistent all the way up, there's a spot where the line could get in there and potentially snag, and then once there's pressure on it, it basically locks off, and you cannot get rid of that gate anymore.
Somebody in my kitchen.
Yeah. So the fact that, I mean, I hope this comes off the right way to the people who are listening, but at this stage of our career, Steph and I could jump any container that we would want. I think most companies would be happy to have us as part of their team. And I'm not saying that in an arrogant way. I hope just that we're very public with what we do. We're at all kinds of competitions, and we do a lot of things in the industry, big ways, and blah blah blah. So if we wanted to work with a manufacturer, that we could, but we've chosen Firebird, to be fair, a lot based on our friendship with George, but also because we feel like he's working hard to keep the equipment safe. And sometimes with a smaller company, this is another thing that I really like. When we give input I just call George and say, hey, I think this, and he already kind of echoed that with like Steve Curtis and Jason Peters and Jeff Rowe and some of the people that he's been friends with, saying these are the things that I think your container should include. And that's, if you haven't met Steve Curtis, the guy is on the spectrum somewhere as far as autism, but he's brilliant, and he's got so many ideas about the right way that things should work, and just being part of a company where you take in that information and actually put it into reality is really nice for a sponsored athlete. Your voice means something in what gets made and what goes on your back. And I think, Chris, just to continue the changes that George has made, they came up with their own MARD system that just was released 6 months ago, George, 8 months ago.
Yeah, it was released years ago, but then, like you said, I didn't like how the end product looked. It always worked the same. And it took time because, COVID came, and then we had a few years of economic downturn. So my focus was on other stuff to basically survive in a lot of ways. But yeah, we release it now to the public, and it's standard at no cost because we think safety shouldn't cost. But that is just a side note. But
that's an important thing to say, is that you're offering a MARD to customers who have your rigs already at no cost, because it's a better product than the RSL. Even though I had, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 RSL chops on the Firebird container, and now I've had 2 on the MARD that were like stupid fast. It's a really nice upgrade.
That's a big deal, George, that you're offering that for free. That's just standard part of a container, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. It comes. I'm going to put that on my list because because I want to be honest before we start going what we are doing, and JRuss might like. So I didn't always listen to my people. So JRuss we were friends for a long time, and I always said, if ever you want to come, you're welcome. I never pushed them. They came, at some point they were like, hey, now we think we want to come, and the product is where we want it to be. But I didn't always listen. And it's not because I didn't want to listen. It's just because everybody out there thinks they know more than we as manufacturers. And at some point, you're like, hey guys, how many rigs did you build? Zero. So please, and I don't want people to think well, actually, I don't want them to think I'm a nice guy, but I want to say sometimes you have to say yeah, and that was my phrase, yeah, and JRuss hated me for that, and sometimes I just said yeah to make him angry. But I mean, I didn't always listen. It's also because also at the beginning you put all that effort, and a lot of people don't. It's easy to trash any manufacturers. You have Vector fans who are going to trash everyone. We have Firebird people who trash other people. And when I was a jumper, I did that too. And now I'm really embarrassed that I did that because I didn't have any clue all those problems all those manufacturers have, be it the smallest one or the biggest one. I mean, the biggest one they're just bigger, but they also have bigger problems. I mean, if they have a recall, they have a bigger problems than if I have to recall 50 rigs. And as a jump, I try, and I think, and I think that is true. I'm not lying when I say it. I tried really with Firebird to make it different. I want to get away from those zealots. I don't want zealots as jumpers. I don't want. A good friend of mine is the CEO of one of the part owners, whatever his title is, but he's part owner of Irodine, Dominic, an awesome dude. I met him because I heard just bad stuff about him, and he also heard bad stuff about me. And then we met, not knowing who we are, and actually we became friends. And every company, and I told him again, that's about finishing my sentences. You see, I read it. Basically, when I met him, I said, hey, we can be competitors, but we don't have to be enemies. And there is a difference, I think, in the generations. The first generation that invented this. I mean, I'm not young, but compared to those guys, I'm totally young. And I respect them that they're still there and still pushing. But there is a difference. Back then, some people did invent this stuff. And then you have like guys like me who, like I said, I didn't get the money. I didn't make that money. My parents died and I got a bunch of money. And I was like, what should I do? So I bought a bunch of guns, which I had before, even more watches. And then I bought Firebird. I didn't buy it. They gave it to me for free. So it's 5 TSOs, tandem TSO reserves. What I didn't know is that even if it's for free, you have to put millions of dollars out there to get a building and machines and spend money on a lot of stuff you have no clue about. So coming back to your question, if I always knew anything about it. So one thing is that I didn't always listen. I want to make that clear because I would feel like a liar if I do it. I always listened, but I didn't always respond accordingly. I did listen, but somewhere between this year and that one, sometimes I decided, okay, trash can. Not always. And I had a fold in my brain, said, hey, to be done down the road. And a lot of those ideas, of course, of my friends ended up there. The other thing is about problems with manufacturers. And also people, if Firebird has a problem tomorrow and I touch wood, it's not happening. It's easy. Oh, Firebird, the small brand. Yeah, of course. And then a big one has it and said, well, yeah, but they have millions of rigs. The thing is this, there's two things in a container. You can have a design problem or you can have a manufacturing problem. Like grommets that are not set, that other manufacturer unfortunately had. That can happen to me. If I give that guy the job, he's going to screw up a Firebird. I was just lucky. And I mean, we had people working for me also, and that is also, I mean, JRuss knows that we're notorious for messing up one thing, and
so
now they're not with me.
All right, I'm cutting off George. And guys, we've been friends a long time, so I'm going to do this every once in a while. But this is a long go around, I think, of communicating that all the manufacturers eventually run into almost exactly the same problems. And so if I'm recalling correctly, there was a problem with a Firebird part, and I think it was the swedging on the cable housing. Like the swedges were not right, and that basically, like these guys order their parts from different parts of the world, and they get the parts, and then they use them in the containers the same way that everybody else does. They have sewers that take the material and stitch it all together, and then this part comes from France and this part comes from China, and they They assemble all of it and off you go. But if the manufacturing is bad, which happened, I think it happened in fact. If I don't want to get sued by Vector, but it happened in some rig where the hip ring, if everyone knows what a hip ring is or a chest ring, that came out bad, and they had to recall those and rebuild them because the material was weaker than it should have been, than it was originally tested. And so George was going the long way around of saying each manufacturer runs into these issues, and as a manufacturer himself, if he hears about somebody else manufacturer goes wrong, he's not getting on that bandwagon anymore of like, oh, that rig sucks or you shouldn't jump it, because it could just as easily happen to him tomorrow if a manufacturer gives him a product that's less than what the TSO was established based on. And so again, like, all of the manufacturers are doing their best to put out a good product, and the last thing they want to do is have an issue. It just comes up sometimes. Chris, you're next.
That's really good to hear from both of you guys. And I think that's really important. Like, I hope all the listeners can understand that and take that to heart. But also, yeah, because another group of people, well, maybe I shouldn't say that because I'm going to make a broad statement, but riggers tend to be very opinionated, right? And what I've seen, what I think happens is a rigger will have one incident with one container from one brand, and then they just immediately assume that brand sucks. And then they tell all the people that they're packing reserves for, don't use whatever because da-da-da-da-da. Well, yeah, that's true. That did happen that one time with that one container that you saw, but that doesn't mean that company is a bad company, right? That's kind of what you guys are getting at.
Yeah, that's totally correct. Yeah. And I mean,
so, that's just really good for me to hear. That's really good for me to hear.
Yeah, I mean, on that subject, of course, and I guess most of my manufacturing colleagues would agree. A lot of riggers, senior riggers usually pack mainly, so a lot of riggers have no clue about building containers. So often we also have riggers call us and they are complaining about something, and then we ask, "Did you read the manual?" And it's like, "Well, no." And then they're, "Oh, okay, now it works." Honestly, that is like 90% of the time if they think there's a problem. But then if you catch them, even then they talk shit, about not only us. I have riggers who talk shit about my competitors. I'm like, whoa, that is not. And then I show them, because we use all the same materials. I think what JRuss
George
said,
all the way to the end of the sentence.
Okay, now I gotta go back to.
But you're doing it.
What I mean is like, what I want to say in general was that I wish there would be more education about the gear. I don't think it's necessary, because you get a driving license. I mean, when I got my driving license, actually they taught us how to change a tire and where the first aid pack is. Nowadays, they don't. They barely tell you where to put the fuel in. But in skydiving, I wish people would have more interest in the manufacturing. The problem is everybody wants to be part of a tribe, and me included. We created our own tribe back then with Judas. JRuss might, and we were notorious for doing very awesome parties. We nearly burned down the band prop. But everybody wants to be part of a tribe, and social media amplified that even more. Before, your tribe was your drop zone. You stayed there the weekend. You slept in the packing mat. You had barbecue, and it was amazing. That was an awesome time in skydiving. Now with social media, people they create their followership, which is their tribe, and then they choose the manufacturer that has the most followers, or where the coolest kids they think there are. I mean, at some point, I remember JRuss, because a lot of people don't know, but JRuss, he and Steph, they stayed at my house for over 10 years in Eloy every single time, and I loved having them. They know that. That's what I miss most about now. I'm in DeLand now, so we moved to DeLand 2 years ago. And I miss Eloy, not because of the city. And I don't get me wrong, because my Eloy people will hear that. I was a city councilor in Eloy, so I love that city. But DeLand has way more to offer: restaurants, bar, people you meet. But well, that you say that, but yeah. Well, no, I miss Frank. He and I, we were neighbors. We drank our pastis nearly every day. I really miss that guy. Now I don't recognize him anymore without his, the gap. He looks beautiful now. Actually, he still has the same accent, so that doesn't.
So for
change.
those listeners who remember Frank, that was a French guy that was on our podcast. I didn't know this because he used to smoke, and his teeth were kind of fucked up, and I had assumed that was from smoking, and it wasn't. He got vaccinated when he was a child, and it ruined his teeth. And I don't know if you noticed when he was on the cast, Chris, but he's smiling all the time, and his teeth are just kind of messed up, and he got them fixed.
They're beautiful now.
Yeah,
yeah, like a model.
Okay, yeah. I want to change the subject because you said something earlier that caught my attention, and something that I've noticed about Firebird. So my background for the past 15 years has been graphic design, and I love the Firebird branding. I really like it, and it stands out in the skydiving industry because I don't know what's going on in this world of skydiving. The branding and graphic design, I'm just going to say.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say that in that case too. I mean,
I don't know what's going on with the graphic design and sky. Yeah. It's so.
I mean, not everybody is bad.
Like what you've done.
Not everybody is bad, and I have to say it is not just me. Of course, I'm the guy who actually has to pay, but I was blessed in skydiving because I met the nicest and best jumpers there are, and one of the guys. We call him the Princess, Ben Ford from Fresh Air. I mean, the guy is a genius. And he would say, though, that most of the ideas come from me, but I can't put it together. I could draw like the crossbones you see there. That's my idea. But if I would draw it, it would look really bad. And he and we had that symbiosis where we are sometimes really yin and yang because I have awesome ideas and he loves them, and then he makes them even better by his talent. But again, also I know his bush. I mean, because of me knowing where to push his buttons.
But I think you've struck a really nice balance of simplicity and boldness.
Yeah. We wanted to be different.
Clean design. Yeah. And you just don't see that in the skydiving world very often. You don't very often see clean, simple, bold design.
Thank you. Yeah, I didn't want to do anything skydiving related. I didn't want to have parachutes. We did so many cool stuff, like be it the Skull and Bones, we did the Drunken one, the Pirate. We did everything based on the flame. Before the Firebird logo was like a bird with flames, which of course for Firebird kind of makes sense. But I was like, no, so this is what we call the fire turd. Well, that's our nickname for the flame. It's a fire turd. It's Steve Curtis we were making fun because I love Steve, but we don't have any China stuff, JRuss, because you said some stuff comes out of France. I just have to disclose that.
But even the typography, the typeface.
We try to be simple.
Shirt, man, it looks great. Yeah. Like I just really, but also, I mean, that's my background, so I look at that stuff all the time. I'm very critical and I analyze design all the time. So. I appreciate. I just think it's really nice. I think it's.
Thank you. I hope Benji sees this because without Benji it couldn't happen, and I think a lot of my ideas Benji loved it and he made it possible.
So if I can interrupt a little bit, Benji, he has a company called, his last name is Ford, F-O-R-D-E, and so he combined Ford, his name, with design, and that's Ford Design is his company. And Chris, you probably. Benji worked in the very beginning of Skydiving Dubai and did all the original branding for Skydiving Dubai, which is iconic to this day. He did a really great job of like putting some sharp, crisp designs out of that sort of blossoming drop zone.
Yeah, dude. I mean, that doesn't surprise me that he did that because that's
Flight 1, 2, Flight 1, Icarus
great example of design. I don't know if he had a hand in Gyro, because they're rebranding when they renamed
Yeah.
to Gyro.
I don't know that either, but I know like Scott Arizona, his brand where he sells the jerseys is Fresh Air, and a lot of our jerseys come from him. Scott Arizona, Flight One, the Golden Knights. I mean, Benji is awesome.
Yeah, well, I'm
He
looking at
is,
his website right now.
he's not for free, unless. I mean, he knows that a lot of people are, oh, come on, we're friends. It's just a small design. He always makes fun of that. A small design for him is, I mean, no design is small. And then again, he hates when I call him designer. He's a creative director. A lot of people don't know it, but he did the logo for NCIS, the TV show, and he worked for NFL before he did those logos, and he quit everything for skydiving, which shows that if you have a good career, never start skydiving, ever, ever. You know, that's one of the reasons I want to get out of the industry, honestly. But
I mean, he's obviously very talented. Very talented guy. That's very cool. I would like to meet him.
Okay, George, we normally keep this at about an hour, and it's 45 minutes now. And so I wanted to talk about a couple things. Number one, sort of, where Firebird is headed in the future, but also you released a tandem container system not long ago that I think it was interesting to hear about. So those two kind of general ideas. So if you could give us a rundown of the tandem first, and then I'll cut you off when I think we're getting too deep, and we'll talk about what's the future of Firebird.
Okay, so Firebird always had a tandem. TSO was a C23D, so a real tandem, not based on a waiver. But it was a three-ring system. The three-ring system, of course, became a not so sexy system, even though it's 100% safe if it's maintained right. And we developed a double three-ring system, which we thought would be the best system to remove all.
Hold on. So when you say three-ring system, you're talking about the attachment point of the main canopy.
No, for the drogue release. Yeah, a three-ring drogue release system. Like the old Vectors, like the Strongs, the Racers. And then, of course, came the disc. The disc had a patent. And when the patent was up...
slow down. Again, a lot of people aren't going to understand what you're saying. Now, like on a Vector tandem system, Vector Sigma has a disc that when the rigger closes the disc, or when the packer closes the disc, whatever, there's four eyelets, and they string the closing loop around the disc and through the eyelets in a very specific pattern. And then there's a pin that goes in. It's called a locking pin. And then there's another pin that goes in as well that basically keeps the container closed until the drogue is released.
Exactly.
And so it's a pretty intricate way to keep it closed, but it's really clever. Like it works well. And so some of the other tandem systems that are out there have not done this system, and a lot of them don't work as well. So just want to give some background there on what you guys came up with.
Yeah. So basically, we had an idea where we thought it would be better. It wouldn't have the little downside that the disc system has. But then every drop zone owner I talked to said, if you don't copy the Sigma, we are not going to buy it. It's just because for training purposes, a drop zone doesn't have the time and money to retrain everyone for weeks or days at a time. And you would need a very large amount of examiner traveling through the whole US to do it. So against my desire, we actually ended up copying, whatever word, a disc, basing on a disc. But we tried to do everything else different but the disc, just because it's round, it's like a wheel. We have a new shape that we're working on, but it's fully articulated. We came out with a 3D printed protector around the disc instead of that sock. That was a French friend of mine who asked me if we would like that, and we would authorize it, and we tested and we liked it. Then I came out with an idea of a magnetic ball. The Sigmas have a golf ball. And I didn't like the golf ball, so we came out first with a ball that snaps into place. And then I talked to my 3D printer who does our protector discs and who's good actually with CAD computers. I'm not. And the same with Benji. I have a good idea. I can't just do it. And I told him, hey, if ever you have time, I have an idea with magnets. And I showed him a golf ball where I drilled holes with magnets in it, and that we used to test the idea. And basically, like 4 days later, he came out with the ball. We call it the Fireball. Other manufacturers now are buying it from us because we were the first to copy the Sigma, but there's a few more companies I work with and I know, be it in Europe or in the US, that are coming out with a disc system. Because the patent is no longer valid for a few years, and it's just the evolution. The 3-ring was the same, the pilot shoes, the BOC. It is just the evolution. We are working on a second version already that combines some of our new ideas, where we actually move also the second release to another location, and if you pull it, it would automatically also release a drogue in case of an emergency. So like our old Firebird, when you cut away, you automatically release the drogue. So with our new disc system, we found a way to actually do it too. And I think that's going to be a big revolution. We work on that since also a year. But everybody told me, if you present your Evo TD, do not bring new ideas. People want to see first that you can do what they know, and then you add on top of it. So we are working on a few things with Ben Lowe. Back then, we worked on a tandem D-back where the disc is integrated in the D-back. I actually took bulletproof plates. We drilled a hole in it, and it works. So basically, you can cock a tandem like a sports container. But it's all those things. At the beginning, we just had our first PIA. They said, bring us a simple copy. And I don't like the words, but I don't want to lie. I mean, but in the end, they also are using the 3D printed discs now. They had some of our prototypes, fireballs at the booth. So for us, it's we didn't patent the Fireball for a reason. I said, hey, it would be hypocritical of me, like copying something and then protecting my other ideas. I think it should be the same. I think, I get it. I'm not a good businessman. The idea of having a business making money, and JRuss knows I'm really bad at it. I mean, it's true. I spend too much money on cool ideas and trying to make everybody happy. And I suck at a business person. I mean, and that is one of the reasons, because a lot of people call me every week, hey, is it true you're selling Firebird? Like every business. I mean, if the money is there, but I had some stuff happening in Europe with my family, and I might have to move back to Europe to take care of some of the family business. I had a bunch of big job offers, be it for the government again, or in a private company. So for me, skydiving I did it out of passion, like I said, for my friends back then, also because, being, for my ex, when we split back then, that was the motivation. Of course, the motivation changed through all those life. I went through a lot of changes as a manufacturer, because at the beginning you get very protective of your products, and that's when, again, you don't listen to every critique. And again, not every critique is justified. It's really rare that actually good ideas come from people bitching. But now I am actually looking out to only get those opinions. And we just released the Evo 2. And I have to say that is mainly our new business partner and partner in Firebird, Luis Lopez Mendez from Tribu. A lot of people know his brothers too, Luis Adolfo from the Flight Wars. It was basically the Evo 2 is based on a bunch of his ideas, my ideas I sucked up from our people. And then it was his baby. I took care of our new military system that is amazing, according to a few units, especially also in the US. We got they want one for testing. That was my baby because of my background, and the new tandem because it's kind of the same. It's the same container. And Luis took care of the Evo 2, and it looks amazing. It's the first time I actually say he did a good job. I just help with the engineering because I do all the FAA paperwork and the engineering, and we integrate a lot of new materials that nobody has, like Tegris, looks like carbon fiber. It's 10 times more expensive than regular plastic stiffener. It's nearly impossible for a line to go through. And again, it's expensive means I'm a bad business person. We could just do it with plastic like everybody else, but I wanted to take the best materials. We use the best and the most expensive hardware from France, CWH. UPT uses the same, Infinity uses the same. We just, everything is included in the price. You don't have to pay all the options. You buy an Evo, nearly everything is included. Black hardware, the hardware with the spring, all that stuff, like aluminum hook knives from the kind. It's free. It doesn't cost me more. Again, I'm a bad business person.
Okay,
and that's
George. Let me
yeah.
stop you. Hold on. That's been a lot of talking. Okay,
Yeah, I know.
so we delved into the future of Firebird. There's a new sport container, the Evo 2.
Yes.
It is. I haven't gotten one yet. That's okay. Eventually, I will. That's the kind of the brainchild of Luis Lopez Mendez, who is your partner at Firebird.
Yes.
There's a tandem container system that, as I understand, has been very popular among the people that have gotten it, similar to the Vector, based on that design with some significant and interesting improvements. Also at a price that's much better for especially smaller drop zones.
Way better, yeah.
Multiple thousands of dollars difference in price. So if you're a drop zone person and you need a tandem system, it's worth looking at. There's potential that you're going to move back to Europe and that Luis will continue to operate Firebird with your partnership, but your role would potentially be diminished. But that resulted in a bunch of rumors going around: Firebird's closing, Firebird's being sold, blah, 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 blah. And it's really just sort of a restructuring of the business as it is, so that you have a smaller role than you've had in the past. Because as your good friend, I can say you've been pretty burned out with burning the candles at both ends for the last 15 years with this company. So, and I know that probably people, I don't know if people will find that hard to believe, but if it's a bigger company where there's a lot of different people doing a lot of different jobs, it makes it a little bit easier for any one person to be in charge. But when you're the person in charge and you're basically doing every job all the time, it's, as a small business, it gets pretty difficult. So I'm just summing up what I know is going on, because that was a lot of information there on the future of Firebird.
Yeah. I 100%. Like I said, we the rumor that we're closing down, that's the only one that is not true. If we have a few buyers. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, I stay on board in Europe. I'm going to develop more the European markets. Still work on the military. Louis will do the sports, and he will coordinate production in the lands. The reason also, as a smaller company, in order to have more people, you need more money. In order to make more money, you have to sell more. And right now, the market is down, not just with us, everyone. I mean, the biggest came from 52 weeks to 24 weeks. Some pairs went down to 12 to 14 weeks. And I don't say they don't have a lot of orders, but usually if the less wait time means it's slow. But also prices are down. I mean, prices are crazy. We just calculated, if you buy an Evo with all the stuff we offer in it, the competitors, you're going to pay over $5,000. And a Firebird is $3,999. Let's say $4,000. Unless you're military or law enforcement or firefighter, it's $3,500. So basically, we started as the first company doing direct sales because the middleman is 30%. And it's becoming a sport for rich people. I mean, $5,500 for a container, $2,000 for a reserve, $1,300 for an AED, and $3,000 or even $35,000 for a main. It's $11,000. You have the AFF, $3,000. I mean, the sport will die. And I said, why don't we give everyone the dealer price? So basically, we give everyone the dealer price. We do have some power sellers. So we don't give dealership to everyone. We really have them in certain locations, like big shops, big drop zones. And on those, we make little money. But it's to show, that we kind of know what we're doing, not always, but we have a good product. I think JRuss, but also Arizona Airspeed, they loved our gear. It just, they are the only team getting paid. And after paying for 4 years and after the economy the last 2 years, we came to an agreement. Hey, we can't afford you guys. They didn't leave because they didn't like Firebird. They went somewhere else because they wanted, legitimately. I mean, they are athletes. I mean, it's funny. Like, we started a rumor, Jeff and I, that Firebird is paying everyone, and it's funny because all the haters were like, "Well, they just jump Firebird because you pay them $10,000 a month." It was all bullshit, just to show
You started that rumor?
Well, it was a joke. It was me and Jeffro and
because people asked me.
I know.
And I was like,
I wanted to show that people eat anything and it's ridiculous. And that's why I try really to, now we say even to be yourself. We have people, I met people, they switched from one manufacturer to the other one just because his friends jumped it, even though they had a free sponsorship. I'm like, are you dumb? And I get it. Listen, maybe I'm jealous that we don't have those zealots, but in my job before, we were alphas. We had brain, we had muscles. I never was part of like a sheep mentality. And I don't mean that disrespectful. I get a lot of people come into sport, they want to be part of it, and a lot of drop zones still have the Sky God corner and the cool kids corner. And I think it's normal. I don't know if every sport has it. Like I said, I only know skydiving and ice hockey. In ice hockey, it's not that. It's having fun, hitting each other, and having beer afterwards. And that's what I now do most of the time, is try to be on the skates as much I can. Here in the land, I have Daytona Beach. In Eloy, I didn't have it. But what I mean is, like, I mean, just go on any Instagram page and just read those comments about, oh, why are you jump wings, friends? No, all those, JRuss, you give him a wings, he wins gold. I mean, and it's a safe rig. I mean, people who think that's a problem. Unfortunately, skydivers don't know not a lot about gear, and it's sad because I feel for everyone in the industry that all those seamstresses, me, everybody, be it the biggest company, the smallest, we all put a lot of love in those companies. We can't sleep if there's a problem, and just to be dismissed, oh, well, you're not the coolest. I always say, well, Ford is the largest manufacturer of cars. It's not the best. I always say, think of Firebird as a Mercedes or an AMG. I don't want to be the biggest. I want to be the one that makes me feel something when I drive it. I want to see, look, I mean, we do so many details on our rigs that some other manufacturer copied that. And I love it because it shows that, without putting a lot of money in gear, and you can do cooler shit. And I don't mean better shit, but cooler shit. We have like, all the details we put on it. I mean, it was 1 hour. It's not a lot to explain that. And I don't want to, I didn't came on the show.
Yeah. Can I share one detail?
Yeah.
So Steph and I, this is hopefully funny to everybody, but it's this kind of stuff that I think is goofy and kind of funny. That it wasn't the first set of containers that Steph and I got, but some order that we got, George thought that he'd be funny, and on the inside of my cutaway handle was a dick. He embroidered a penis on the inside of my cutaway handle, and he put it on Steph's as well.
Well, don't cut away.
Yeah, I mean, just thinking of the hilariousness of getting your container and being like, oh, sweet, it's new gear, I love it, awesome. It's great.
Check it out.
And then just what is that? The manufacturer has like just fucked with you a little bit, It's I don't know. That kind of
That's great.
Yeah, but I think people see it like I said. The whole discount for military people. All that stuff is to give back to some point of view in the sport like I said, if we just keep milking all the customers, and again, I don't want to now be disrespectful to my competitors. They have to do their calculations, and they have to decide how much they charge. But it's not worth that money. I mean, and again, don't get me wrong, it's way more expensive nowadays after COVID to build a rig. We used to cost to build a rig were about $1,200-$1,400. Right now, the cost is more like $2,200-$2,300 to build a container. Of course, if you have a big overhead and you have a bunch of managers who make 12 grand a month, that price goes up. Also, if you're a good business person and you want to look out for your future and have savings, you're going to ask more money. Unfortunately, my parents gave me a lot of stuff, but they never gave me the business part of anything. But I mean, we didn't raise our price for years, and even on our reserves, we try to be good. And again, cheap, I always say we're not cheap, we are less expensive, because everyone in the industry knows we only use the best materials. The quality is at least as good as anyone who thinks he's the best and the biggest. And nobody's going to deny that. I mean, look, we had Airspeed, SDC Core, Flight Shop. We had at some point all US formation skydiving champions, all world champions. And again, we didn't pay him $10,000 a month. So that was a joke. They jumped it because they liked it. Jeffro, I never asked him to come to Firebird. At some point, he said, George, now it's your company. Would you like me to come? And I said, fuck, I mean, hell yeah. We are literally also best friends. The same with JRuss. They had something with the team and said, hey, maybe we should look somewhere else. Airspeed came to us too at some point. They were unhappy with their sponsor. And I don't blame their sponsor at that time. You know, they had their reasons. They don't understand, of course. The athletes don't always understand us because they are like, well, but we tag you or we post pictures. Yeah, but you don't tag us. And if we don't see revenue, if I don't have orders coming saying that I bought a Firebird because of JRuss, well, you're kind of, I mean, we have people, and at some point I sponsored nearly everyone because I was like, okay, where's that money going? Oh, just throw it around. Sorry.
George, you're doing it.
Oh, not finishing sentence, yeah.
And take a breath every once in a while.
Yeah. So what I mean is, like, I wish, I mean, the sport at some point will come to a cross point where it's okay, are we getting more and more expensive and it's going to be a sport for rich people or just cool influencers? And then we have a plan for that. We're going to deliver skinny black jeans with cut knees to each container you buy, so that at least the influencers are all going to come to us, or 2 pairs of black skinny jeans. But
okay, so that's the future of Firebird, is that we get a pair of skinny jeans with our container?
Yeah, maybe. No, but what I mean is, like, I wish if jumpers would be a little bit more interested in the gear, and they would forget the whole brand zealotry and see it more as a sport that will have to survive. And if rigs get so expensive that nobody can afford it, manufacturers will close down, and we will have a lot of used gear until the manufacturer for the spare parts is no longer there. And then, you know, and I think the future of the sport is not sure. It's not guaranteed that sports skydiving will survive. Look at the prices of jumps, $35, you know, and it's, you know, it's also, it has a lot of reason. It's like, of course, socioeconomic reasons, geopolitical reasons why everything is expensive. But it's also, you know, like I always like the skydivers who want to save the planet, but then they jump out of planes who are polluting everything, jumping gear made out of nylon, 100% petrol. But what I mean is, like, no.
George.
Okay, hold on. Hey.
We are off the topic. Hold on.
Yeah, I want to tell people, be more interested in the gear. Nothing. There's no bad gear on the market. Sometimes somebody of the workers messes up, but that can happen to me. That can happen to Vector. It can happen to everyone. And don't, you know, if I think the community grew apart because of social media and all this brand zealotry. I think before you went to Drop Zone, it was different, and I think that would make that also the Drop Zone owner maybe their prime focus is not just the money making. But again, maybe they are good business people, unlike me. And
George,
yes, sir.
Chris has a question.
Okay.
So I was looking at the Firebird website earlier, and okay, so first of all, the Evo 2 is not on the website yet. Is that correct?
No, it is. It is. I mean, it's now ready to order. We deliver them already. I mean, JRuss and Stephanie, we just got them a new one from the Evo 1. The Evo 2 wasn't ready yet. And then they said themselves, hey, give us Evo 2 whenever you can afford it, because it's a bunch of free stuff. And we just repaired all their used gear, and they thought actually it was brand new one. Because
okay,
they,
so it is on
good.
there somewhere. I just
it
didn't
is
see
on
it.
there, yeah. And then
So
yeah.
I have a gear question, technical question that I saw on the website. One of the option, or I don't know if it was an option, but something that said VFS laterals. What are VFS laterals? What does that mean?
Well, the VFS lateral back then was because when I started skydiving, jumping with Jason Peters, Steve Curtis, all those guys, I did VFS. Back then, that was the coolest stuff you could do. I still think it is the coolest stuff to do because it's the most it's a Formula One of skydiving. The angle flyer will hate me right now, but I think VFS is, I mean, it's like in my, it's a SWAT unit. It's like surgery. It's like literally surgery. And back then everybody wanted shorter laterals, so it sticks more to it's just short for short laterals. And at some point we called it the WCV, which was the world champion version, but actually it was meant to say we copy Vector, because we was a funny.
So Chris, there's a couple manufacturers who do this. I can't remember if Vector does a short lateral. They might have done it specifically for us when we asked, but basically this is one of the things that we also talked to George about. Like when you're transitioning, like if you're belly flying, and I like belly flying, and I've done four-way in the past, so please don't take this as negativity, but when you're belly flying and the rig's mostly just sitting on your back and your burble, it doesn't affect your flight that much. And so, if there's a four-way FS team, they can get in the tunnel with just a strapping system that mimics a harness. They don't necessarily have to actually wear a rig to get benefit out of tunnel flying. But when you're transitioning from head up to head down, back to belly, whatever, if there's movement in your container, it translates pretty harshly to your transition, and it affects your positioning basically after the transition. And we're looking for such precision out of our movements that having the basically the bottom of the container suck up tighter to like the small of your back meant that your transitions were cleaner. And if for anybody who's never tried it, if you take even the rig that was made for you, if you didn't get those short laterals, take that rig in the tunnel, like do all the things to protect yourself, get a tunnel cover and pin it the right way, and blah, blah, blah. But when you go on your back, you will instantly see how actually badly your rig probably fits, because it's gonna slide over, and then it's gonna create a pocket of air that slams you into the wall. And it won't hurt, but I swear you'll be laughing, because you won't realize that when your rig moves around like that, it sends you across the sky. And so a bunch of flyers actually requested that. I know for sure that SunPath does this modification as well I think because Chemtrails VFS team was the team that asked for them to do it. They might call it the Chemtrails mod, similar to like the VFS mod, or I don't know if Vector has a specific name for it, but it's just but you have to sacrifice some comfort to do that. Like your rig is not going to feel maybe as comfortable, even though I still feel like mine's real comfortable.
Okay, so
on the canopy, it will feel definitely pinching in the back. Free falling, you won't see a difference, but on the canopy, definitely it's going to be a little bit less.
So does it? I think I'm pretty sure I understand, but maybe not. Does it mainly help it fit better when you're back flying or flying head up? Head down, it wouldn't make as much of a difference. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And I found the Evo 2 on the website. I just popped in there and looked around the ordering form.
Yeah, what'd you do? Because I didn't see it anywhere.
I just went to So I went to Fly Firebird products,
Yeah.
containers,
Yeah.
Evo Sport container,
Okay.
and then the second item, Evo order form, then Evo 2 order form.
Oh yeah, it's right there. Okay.
Yeah. Louis is redoing it, and but we have on our Instagram page, maybe also on our YouTube page, we have a video where we explain all the differences, especially the squadron or the Tigris, those new materials we brought into the thing. Louis, he literally put. I told him when I mean, JRuss and Steph always said, George, can you do some modification? I always said, hey, whenever we do an Evo 2, we're gonna do it. And at some point, Louis he started with us doing more like he supervised a little bit the production in DeLand for me while I was living in Eloy. And he said, I want to do the Evo 2. And I said, I want to stay away from that. You can do it. He brought a bunch of his ideas from all those years. He jumped his Vector. He's a DeLand local. So he knows Mad Dog, all those people working for Vector. And so he helped also developing back then the first magnets. And I said, hey, you can go crazy. I pay for it. Go crazy. And he did a good job. I am rare to be still excited about skydiving gear because I just burned myself a little bit out. But I have to say I'm happy he didn't listen to me because often I said, it's good enough. And he's like, no, it's not. And I'm really proud that Louis is like, screw him. I'm going to do it my way. And I said, okay. But it took 2 years to get there. We thought it's a lot of work. People don't get that.
So on YouTube, if it's just for the listeners, if you guys want to check this out, their YouTube channel is Firebird USA, and there's a video. It's the first video that I found for them right now. It's Evo 2 news and features. I'm guessing that's the video you're talking about, right?
Yeah, exactly. You're going to see also the tandem. The new tandem videos are on it too.
Yeah.
If you like my German French accent, you should totally watch all those videos.
Yeah, so I just want to encourage you, if you're not familiar with Firebird and the Evo, I've really enjoyed talking with you, George. This is really awesome. But I want to encourage everybody, go check out their website for sure, but go to YouTube and just watch that video. You can kind of get a feel for some of the differences, some of the things they're trying to do to make the Evo and the Evo 2 really comfortable and a good, safe, affordable quality rig.
And very important about Firebird, we have a bunch of dogs at the factory. So if you don't like dog hair, don't buy Firebird. And we loved, Mia, she's the sisters of I have 3 beagles. 2 are 14 years old. They are the soul of Firebird. JRuss knows it. They are the soul of me. Without my dogs, honestly, I would have given up on life in multiple different ways since a long time. And touching that thing is, today is Baba's, that's my youngest beagle. Today is his 8th birthday. So I have, and he's happy
birthday too. What's his name?
Baba. His
Baba.
Real name is
happy
Judge,
birthday to him.
But we call him Baba. JRuss loves him.
He's great.
That's cool.
So our dog Mia, who just had her 15th birthday a few days ago, was George said it, but for 10 years we stayed at his house in Eloy, and the dogs were always together, and they're brothers and sisters from another mother. Dexter and Luna are his 2 other dogs, and Bubba.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's been almost an hour and 20 minutes. JRuss, you got to give us an update on Bean real quick, man.
It's going really well. So one of the things that Steph reminded me of is, and George, I don't know if you know, but I had the bird Chicken Hawk. She unfortunately passed, but a new bird has joined our life. Thank you. I have a new house sparrow. Her name is Bean. She's really small, even small. Chicken Hawk was a runt, in my opinion, and Bean is even smaller. She's eating like a machine, but just not growing that much. But Steph reminded me that we had Chicken Hawk for 8 months, and like all the landing on me and how attached that we were to each other, it took a little while to develop. So Bean's been with us about 2 weeks now, and she's already like landing on me. She wants to snuggle up at night by cuddling. Like she wants to sleep on my chest. So the whole process is, I'm really enjoying it, and it hasn't been very long, but But my rationalization is that she wasn't going to survive without me. I'm sticking to that story, and we're going to be the best of friends.
Hey, just so you know, JRuss, this past Sunday at church, I did like the welcome and the call to worship at my church, and I told a very brief story about you and Chicken Hawk and Bean. So you were mentioned
We
to my church
appreciate it.
family.
Yeah, we're church famous in your local parish.
There you go. Well, George, man, thank you so much for joining us, man. Really,
Thank you
really
for
nice.
having me, and thank you, JRuss, for not talking me into it. It's because I saw Frank and I was drunk, and I texted him, "You take a Frenchie," and that's when it happened. And he's like, "Well, you wouldn't come anyway. I asked you." I'm like, "Oh, actually," I was like, "Oh, damn, I said yes." But I love it. Like I said, you know, it's at some point you're gonna go Joe Rogan length, like 3-4 hours, because JRuss knows me. We talk for hours, not always agreeing, especially when it comes to politics. But JRuss and I, we have this relationship. We love each other. I 100%. And JRuss is one of the nicest people out there. I have to say it, unfortunately, because, but he's so awesome. Even awesomer is Steph. Steph is literally, she's an angel. And I miss them. Because in Eloy they were there every month, every 2 months, and for weeks at a time. And when they were there, sometimes I could travel because I'm in DeLand now since 2 years, and I do have a few people I really like in DeLand, but it's not like Eloy. And I miss definitely the strange Russells and the Frankeloff. Those two. I miss Steve and Sarah Curtis, who are also part owner of Firebird. I miss them too. And Jason Peters, of course. I mean, that's a guy I don't know if you had him, but Jason is. He made
He'd be a good guest. Yeah.
Yeah, he made me a good tunnel because I told Chris at the beginning I spent a lot of money on skydiving, and actually I sucked. Steve Curtis actually got rid of me after one jump of coaching. He couldn't handle me, and then Sarah actually put me on the head, which proves that Sarah is a better instructor. I'm saying that. And then I became a tunnel instructor, and because I had that herd mentality, I want to be part of the cool kids. Because in my prior job at the police, if you're a SWAT unit or you're a special unit, you're the fucking coolest dude out there, and it stays in your DNA, you know. So in skydiving, I had this need of replicating it, and I tell people just enjoy skydiving for yourself. Don't try to be part of a group. And that's why I enjoy.
That's a great segue into Chris's ending, which we're going to get to, because he likes to say, enjoy skydiving, get out there with your friends. Chris, you take
exactly.
Yeah. Well, man, I think maybe we should have Frank and you both back on at the same time.
Oh, man, that would be. But then we have to do 2 hours and alcohol allowed. And then alcohol allowed.
We can just go as long as we want.
You know what we do? I'm going to send each of you. I know you still don't drink, JRuss, right? I don't know, because you said you go to church, so it's possible that you don't drink at all.
No, I drink.
Okay, so I'm going to send you, Frank Elof, if you listen, si tu écoutes, on va lui envoyer du pastis. So we're going to send you a bottle of pastis, so we can all
partake together.
Yeah, except him. But he's the only one I don't. He's right to not drink. Right, well, I don't drink a lot anymore. I have to say, I just. I mean, it's all legal what I do, all legal. But I had a lot of life-changing stuff, so that's why I say having 1 hour with me is. I was like, what, 1 hour? That's like age 0 to 5. Yeah. But maybe people are gonna call you and they don't want to see my face anymore. That's totally okay.
Well, George, really, thank you for joining us, and
always welcome to visit.
To all the listeners, well, you've done it again. You've wasted another perfectly good hour listening to the Crave Show with Chris, JRuss, and George. And yeah, I mean, just exactly what George was saying. Just go out there, jump out of an airplane, man. Have fun. Just enjoy skydiving. You've got nothing to prove. You don't have to be one of the cool kids. Just enjoy being in the sky together. Man, I just love letting go of the airplane. Like, that is my favorite part, just letting go. Everything goes away. It's peaceful. You're focused. You're right there with your friends. So go enjoy it. George, thank you. JRuss, thanks, man. Crave, do more. Everybody. Be better. See you guys.
See you guys.